Okay, so you sent over a really fascinating bunch of articles and notes all about overcoming obstacles.
Yeah.
It seems like you're looking for some strategies
hmm
and maybe even a bit of inspiration from history to help you tackle some of the challenges that you're facing.
Absolutely.
Well, you are definitely in the right place.
Yeah.
This deep dive is all about that.
That's right.
And we've got some insights from some pretty amazing people like John D. Rockefeller,
Oh, yeah.
Steve Jobs, and even a samurai swordsman.
That's right.
Yeah.
What's really cool is that all of these sources that you sent over,
Mm-hmm.
they all kind of point to one key idea,
Yeah.
and that is that how we see an obstacle
Mm-hmm.
often determines whether or not we're going to overcome it or not.
Right.
It's not just what happens to us,
Yeah.
but it's about how we choose to understand it.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's start with John D. Rockefeller.
Okay.
Can you imagine starting your career in finance right before the Panic of 1857?
Oh, wow.
I mean, that was a massive financial crisis in the U.S.
Yeah.
Kind of like a stock market crash, but on steroids.
Yeah, a huge one.
Most people would have freaked out.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
talk about a trial by fire.
Yeah.
This is where we really see Rockefeller's genius.
Yeah.
Instead of panicking, he just studied the situation, almost like a detective at a crime scene.
Interesting.
He saw all this chaos as a chance to learn how unpredictable the market can really be.
Yeah.
And these lessons that he learned, they really became like the foundation of his success.
It's almost like he treated the entire crisis as like free education, wouldn't you say?
It is. I mean, it's more than that, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, most people can't detach themselves like that,
Right.
especially when their finances are at stake.
For sure.
One of the techniques that Rockefeller used to develop this amazing level of objectivity
Mm-hmm.
was he'd actually write down
Really?
the facts of a situation.
Wow.
So that would help him separate those facts
Right.
from his own emotional reactions.
Mm.
He also realized that crowds often make bad decisions based purely on fear.
Yeah.
He called it the mad crowd,
Oh, wow.
and he learned to trust his own thinking instead.
So instead of thinking like, oh no, the sky is falling,
Yeah.
he's thinking, okay, what can I learn from this?
Right.
So it doesn't happen again.
Exactly.
That's brilliant.
It is.
No wonder he built such a massive empire.
It's no coincidence that he made a lot of his fortune during really tough economic times.
That's interesting.
So while others were selling off everything they had in a panic,
Yeah.
he was calmly looking for the opportunities that they were missing
Uh-huh.
because they couldn't see past the fear.
Wow. This is super relevant for all of us.
Yeah.
Even if we aren't running, giant companies or anything,
Right.
we all face setbacks,
Mm-hmm.
even just small everyday annoyances.
Absolutely.
What's a practical takeaway from Rockefeller's story that we can use right now?
Think about a recent time when you got really stressed out about something going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe missed a deadline at work or your car broke down. Now try to look back on that situation as objectively as possible
Okay.
and just write down the facts.
Uh-huh.
Just the facts, no feelings.
Okay.
This can help you see the situation more clearly
Yeah.
and maybe make smarter decisions next time something similar happens.
That's really useful advice.
I think so.
Okay, so we've talked about staying calm and objective,
Right.
like Rockefeller.
Yeah.
But what about those times when we're up against something that feels way bigger than us? Like imagine you're facing a blitzkrieg,
Oh, wow.
which is a super intense, fast-moving military attack,
Right.
kind of like what the Germans used in World War II.
Exactly. This is where General Eisenhower's story is so powerful.
Okay.
During World War II, a lot of the Allied commanders
Uh-huh.
were completely overwhelmed by the German blitzkrieg.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a terrifying new kind of warfare,
Right.
but Eisenhower had a totally different take on it.
He did. He actually said to his generals, the present situation is an opportunity for us, not a disaster.
That's amazing.
What did he see that everyone else missed?
Well, Eisenhower realized that the blitzkrieg,
Mm-hmm.
while it was really powerful, it did have a big weakness
Okay.
because it relied so much on speed and surprise.
Mm-hmm.
The Germans would often stretch their forces really thin as they advanced.
Interesting.
So their lines were vulnerable to a counterattack.
Okay.
And he recognized this as an opportunity.
And that's exactly what happened in the Battle of the Bulge,
Oh, yeah.
which was one of the biggest battles of World War II.
Huge.
The Germans launched this huge surprise attack,
Right.
but the Allies managed to hold on,
Mm-hmm.
and then they actually used the Germans' own strategy against them.
They turned it around on them.
Yeah, it was a perfect example of how changing your perspective can completely change the outcome.
I love that.
They didn't just survive the Blitzkrieg.
Right.
They used it to their advantage.
Exactly. Just like Rockefeller,
Yeah.
Eisenhower didn't let fear control him.
So the takeaway here is that even when we're facing something that seems really intimidating,
Yeah.
we need to try to look for those weak spots.
Mhm.
Ask yourself, how can I turn this situation around?
Right.
But how do we even begin to do that when fear might be clouding our judgment?
Well, one thing that really helped Eisenhower
Mm-hmm.
and all of these figures that we're talking about today
Yeah.
is that they didn't see themselves as victims,
Mm-hmm.
even when he was in a war.
Mm.
He was actively looking for how he could gain control.
Okay, so we've seen how perception can be a game changer in business and war.
Mm-hmm.
But how does this apply to our personal lives?
That's a great question.
Like, what if we're dealing with something that feels deeply unfair, like
Yeah.
being falsely accused of something?
The story of Reuben Hurricane Carter is a perfect example of this.
Okay.
He was a really successful boxer
Yeah.
who was wrongly convicted of murder
Wow.
and spent almost 20 years in prison.
Oh my gosh, that kind of situation could make anyone lose hope. But Carter refused to let his circumstances define him.
And that's amazing in itself.
Yeah.
He always said, I am not and never will be powerless.
Powerful words.
They are.
Yeah.
And, he couldn't control being in prison,
Yeah.
but he could control how he responded to it.
Right.
So he focused on the things that he could influence,
Mm-hmm.
things like his mindset,
Mm-hmm.
educating himself,
Right.
and working on his legal case.
I'm noticing a theme here.
What's that?
Controlling what you can when you can.
Yeah.
But how do you even begin to think that way when you're facing something as awful as false imprisonment?
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like your whole life is being controlled by outside forces.
Well, what's so powerful about Carter's approach
Yeah.
is that he understood where his true power really was,
Yeah.
inside himself.
Yeah.
No one could take away his thoughts
Mm-hmm.
or his beliefs or his choices.
Right.
He decided how he would react.
Yeah.
And he refused to give up his inner freedom.
That is such a powerful message for anyone who is going through a really difficult time.
I agree.
No matter what's happening around us, we always have that control over our own minds and how we react.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about asking yourself, what aspects of this can I influence?
Uh-huh.
And how can I use that influence
Yeah.
to create a better outcome?
Right.
And even in truly difficult situations,
Yeah.
there are always choices that we can make,
Yeah.
actions that we can take.
And Carter's story is such a great example of that,
It really is.
showing that even when things seem hopeless,
Mm-hmm.
those small choices
Yeah,
can lead to really amazing results.
that's right. One thing that can really help with this is practicing mindfulness.
I can see how that would help.
Yeah.
Okay, so it seems like staying calm under pressure is key.
I think it's essential.
And it makes me think about Ulysses S. Grant,
Oh, yeah.
who was the general that led the Union Army during the Civil War.
Right.
Talk about high-pressure situations.
No kidding. Grant was known for being incredibly composed,
Mm-hmm.
even in the most chaotic and dangerous situations.
There are all those stories about him being totally unfazed during battles,
Right.
even when a cannonball exploded right next to him
Wow.
and killed his horse.
Oh my gosh.
He just kept looking through his field glasses like nothing even happened.
That's incredible.
That's an amazing example of what you might call tranquil courage.
It is.
It's like having this mental shield that just protects you from the fear and the anxiety,
Yeah,
so you can stay focused and make good decisions.
that's right.
Imagine how valuable that would be in just your everyday life.
Oh, absolutely.
But that level of calmness almost seems superhuman. How can regular people learn to do that?
Well, it starts with realizing that panicking almost never helps.
Okay.
So the next time you feel that stress taking over,
Mm-hmm.
just to ask yourself, will freaking out help me here?
Right.
Almost always the answer is going to be no.
Yeah.
And so instead of letting the panic take the wheel,
Mm-hmm.
we need to focus on what we can actually do to solve the problem.
Right. So it sounds like it's all about channeling our energy into finding solutions
Yes.
instead of getting lost in the fear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a really simple but powerful technique that Grant used that we can all try.
Uh-huh.
Whenever he felt overwhelmed,
Yeah.
he would focus on one specific task that he could control.
Okay.
And it could be as simple as organizing his desk
Mm-hmm.
or writing a letter.
Interesting.
And that would help him regain his sense of control and clarity.
Okay, that's a great tip.
Yeah,
So far, we've seen how much our perceptions and reactions can really shape our reality.
they really do.
But how can we even be sure that we are seeing things clearly? Yeah.
Without all those distortions of fear and bias.
Well, this is where the wisdom of Miyamoto Musashi comes in.
Okay.
He was this legendary samurai swordsman
Uh-huh.
and a brilliant strategist
Yeah.
who lived in Japan back in the 1600s.
Okay.
He wrote about the difference between what he called the observing eye
Hmm.
and the perceiving eye.
I'm intrigued. What's the difference between the two?
Well, Musashi believed that the perceiving eye is weak because it's always clouded by our judgments and assumptions. So it sees what it wants to see,
Right.
not necessarily what's really there.
So it's kind of like our own personal filter.
Exactly.
And we might not even realize it's there.
That's right.
Okay.
On the other hand, the observing eye
Yeah.
sees things objectively
Mm-hmm.
without all the baggage of our interpretations.
Okay.
So it's about seeing the world as it truly is,
Right.
not as we wish it were
Mm.
or fear it might be.
Yeah. It's like taking off a pair of blurry glasses.
Yeah. And suddenly being able to see everything in like high definition.
Exactly.
I'm starting to get it, but how do we train ourselves to use that observing eye?
Yeah.
It seems like a real challenge these days
It is.
when we are just bombarded with information and opinions all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
You know, it does take practice.
Uh-huh.
But one technique that the ancient Stoic philosophers used, and that Musashi also emphasized,
Yeah.
was to try to describe things
Mm-hmm.
in their most basic,
Uh-huh.
unembellished forms.
So kind of like stripping away all the fancy packaging
Exactly.
and getting down to that core essence.
That's it. The Stoics would call this contemptuous expressions.
Interesting.
For example, Marcus Aurelius,
Mm-hmm.
who was a Roman emperor and a Stoic philosopher.
Right.
He would remind himself that a fancy piece of roasted meat was just a dead animal,
Wow.
and that a glass of vintage wine was just old fermented grapes.
Okay. That's a pretty stark way of looking at things.
It is.
But I see the point.
Yeah.
It's about stripping away all the hype and all that emotional baggage that we tend to attach to things.
Exactly.
Okay.
And by doing that, we can see things more clearly
Yeah,
and hopefully make better decisions.
for sure.
So let's say you're facing a setback at work.
Uh-huh.
Instead of getting all caught up in the drama
Right.
or blaming other people,
Yeah.
you can try to see the situation objectively.
Mm-hmm.
What are the facts?
Yeah.
What went wrong?
Right.
What are the possible solutions?
So it's like taking a step back from the situation
Exactly.
and asking, am I letting my emotions cloud my judgment here?
Yes.
And is this really as bad as it seems?
Those are great questions to ask yourself.
Yeah. The more we practice seeing things with that observing eye,
Right.
the better equipped we'll be to handle whatever life throws our way.
Absolutely.
And that leads us to another incredibly important skill
What?
for turning obstacles into opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the power of perspective.
That's right.
Tell me more about that.
Sometimes all it takes is just a little shift
Mm-hmm.
in how we're viewing a situation
Yeah.
to completely change our experience of it.
Right.
It's about choosing to see the potential upside
Okay.
instead of getting stuck focusing on the downside.
I see. It reminds me of the story about Pericles,
Oh, yeah.
who was an Athenian general.
Right.
During a sea voyage, his fleet got caught in a solar eclipse,
Oh, wow.
and his crew was terrified.
Understandably.
Yeah, they thought it was like a bad omen.
Mm-hmm.
But Pericles knew better,
He did.
and he handled it brilliantly.
He did.
He simply asked one of his steersmen
Yeah.
if he was afraid of his cloak when he held it over the man's face.
Okay.
Of course, the steersman wasn't afraid.
Right.
So Pericles said, what does it matter if the cause of the darkness is the sun or a cloak?
Oh, that's so clever.
Yeah, that is such a clever way to reframe the entire situation.
It is.
By simply changing how they were seeing the darkness,
Yeah.
he neutralized their fear.
Exactly. You know, we often jump to the worst possible conclusions, and
Yeah.
especially when we're under stress.
Mm.
We make things seem so much bigger and scarier than they actually are.
Right. So how can we avoid falling into that trap? It
Yeah.
seems like our brains are kind of wired
They are.
to go to that worst case scenario sometimes.
That's our survival instinct.
Yeah.
One thing that we can do is consciously challenge those negative assumptions.
Okay.
So when you're facing a challenge,
Uh-huh.
ask yourself,
Yeah.
is this really as big of a deal as I'm making it out to be?
Mm-hmm.
Is there another way
Yeah.
that I can look at this situation?
That's a great reminder to pause
It is.
and reframe our thinking.
Yes,
Sometimes just that little shift in perspective can make all the difference.
it can.
It's like finding a hidden doorway in a seemingly solid wall.
I love that.
It's been incredible to see how much our mindset and our perceptions really do shape our
It's
experiences.
amazing, isn't it?
It is, but thinking and feeling is only part of the equation, right?
Right.
At some point, we have to take action. We have to move from thinking to doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All this mental work that we've been talking about
Mm.
is about preparing us for action.
Right.
It helps us see clearly, choose wisely,
Mm-hmm.
and then act with courage and determination.
And when it comes to taking action,
Yeah.
there's no better example than the legendary baseball pitcher Tommy John.
Oh, yeah.
He played for an incredible 26 seasons.
He did.
That's amazing.
Talk about resilience
Wow.
and a relentless focus on what he could control.
Talk about grit.
Yeah.
Tommy John's career is proof that we can achieve really incredible things
Yeah.
by focusing on what we can influence,
Uh-huh.
even when we're up against huge obstacles.
Yeah. Most people know him for that revolutionary surgery that bears his name.
Right, the Tommy John surgery, which has saved the careers of countless pitchers.
For sure. But his story is about so much more than that.
It is.
When he had that elbow surgery, it was considered experimental.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a 1 in 100 chance of ever pitching again.
Well, he could have easily just retired right then and there,
Oh, yeah.
but he asked himself, is there any chance at all?
Mm.
And when he got a yes, he was all in.
Wow.
He dedicated himself completely to rehab and training.
And what's even more remarkable is that he faced other major challenges as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his young son had this terrible accident.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he fell from a window.
Can you imagine going through that
Yeah.
while you're also trying to make a comeback in professional baseball?
At the same time,
That's mind-blowing.
it is.
Hmm.
Even in that really terrifying situation, he stayed so focused. He refused to give up hope,
Mm.
and he did everything he could to help his son recover.
His story really embodies the serenity prayer, doesn't it?
It does.
God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change,
Mm.
courage to change the things I can,
Yeah.
and wisdom to know the difference.
It's such a powerful reminder
Yeah.
that we can't control everything that happens to us,
Right.
but we can control how we react,
Uh-huh.
what choices we make,
Mhm.
and what we focus on.
It's about channeling our efforts wisely,
Exactly.
accepting what we can't change,
Yeah.
and putting all of our energy into what we can.
And that's relevant to all of us,
For sure.
no matter what we're facing.
Right.
It's about asking yourself, what can I actually control in this situation?
Yeah.
And how can I use that to create a better outcome?
That's such a powerful question to keep in mind.
It is.
It helps us shift from feeling like we're at the mercy of our circumstances
Right.
to being active participants in our own lives.
That's the key takeaway.
Yeah.
And it leads us to another important question.
Okay.
How do we stay focused on taking action
Yeah.
when that big picture
Yeah.
just feels so overwhelming?
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
It's like when you get sucked into all the doom and gloom of the news, or you start worrying about everything that could go wrong in the future.
Yeah,
It's paralyzing.
it is. What's the antidote to that kind of thinking?
What?
Well, let's look at all the entrepreneurs who launched really successful businesses
Okay.
during tough economic times.
Yeah. It might seem kind of counterintuitive,
It does.
but it makes sense when you look a little deeper.
It does.
You're right. It's amazing how many iconic companies were founded
I know.
during recessions and depressions.
It's incredible. FedEx,
Yeah.
Disney, Hewlett-Packard, Microsoft.
Mm.
The list goes on and on.
Yeah. What's interesting is that these founders weren't just sitting around
Right?
simmering over the bad economy.
Yeah.
They were way too busy solving problems and building their businesses.
Exactly. So they weren't ignoring the reality of the situation,
Right.
but they weren't letting it define their actions.
Uh-huh.
They were focused on what they could control right here, right now.
It's like the author Chuck Palahniuk said.
Yeah.
The trick to forgetting the big picture is to look at everything close up.
I love that.
When we get bogged down in that big picture, we miss all those small, actionable steps that we can actually take to make progress.
Absolutely. It's like trying to eat an entire elephant in one bite.
Right. You got to break it down
Okay.
into smaller, more manageable pieces.
That's a great analogy.
And when we shift our focus to the present moment, to what we can do right now,
Yeah,
we regain a sense of control and agency.
we do.
So we move from feeling overwhelmed to feeling empowered.
Exactly. So instead of getting stuck in the what ifs and the if onlys,
Yeah.
we can choose to focus on what is
Mm-hmm.
right here, right now.
It's a powerful shift.
It really is. And it brings us to one final but essential ingredient
Okay.
for turning obstacles upside down,
Uh-huh.
and that's belief.
I have a feeling we're about to talk about Steve Jobs.
We are. He was so famous for his unwavering belief that he could achieve things that everyone else thought were impossible.
Jobs was a master of what people called his reality distortion field.
Yes, he was.
He had this uncanny ability to just bend reality to his will. But it wasn't just magic.
Right.
It was about working relentlessly, paying attention to every detail, and just refusing to accept anything less than excellence.
That's right.
He was known for pushing his team incredibly hard,
Oh, yeah.
demanding that they achieve things that they thought were impossible.
Yeah.
But he also inspired them to believe in his vision, didn't he?
He did.
It was like he transmitted his belief in what they were creating.
Absolutely. And that shared belief, that sense of collective purpose, really became a key ingredient in Apple's success.
It did. It's a good reminder that our beliefs can actually be contagious.
They can.
When we believe in something deeply, when we're passionate about our work, when we're committed to making a difference,
Right.
we inspire other people to believe as well.
We do. And that shared energy, that collective belief, it can create such amazing results.
It can fuel those breakthroughs. It can spark innovation. It can even change the world.
And it all starts with believing in ourselves.
Yeah.
And in what we're capable of achieving.
That's a perfect way to sum it up.
I think so.
So the next time you're facing a challenge, ask yourself, what do I believe is possible?
Yeah.
Am I limiting myself with my own doubts and fears?
That's the question. And if the answer is yes, then it's time to start challenging those limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
And replace them with something more empowering.
It's about cultivating a mindset of possibility.
It is.
Believing in our own potential.
Yeah.
And being willing to embrace the unknown.
Absolutely.
This has been an amazing journey so far.
It has.
We've seen how much control we actually have over our experiences.
Yeah.
Even when things feel really tough. We've learned how to shift our perceptions.
Right.
Regulate our emotions.
Absolutely.
Focus on what we can control.
That's key.
And believe in ourselves.
It is. We're not done yet, though.
We're not.
There's so much more to unpack.
I'm excited.
I am too. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. We've been on this incredible journey, exploring how all these amazing people throughout history turned obstacles into advantages.
Yeah.
And you know what really strikes me?
That's that.
Is how many of them actually seem to embrace challenges that most of us would just run away from.
Right.
They almost welcomed adversity.
That's a great observation.
Yeah.
You know, they really understood that obstacles are just a natural part of life.
Right.
And that trying to avoid them actually keeps us from growing.
Yeah.
So they saw these challenges as chances to test themselves, to learn, and to become even stronger.
There's that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Right.
But it's more than just a cliche, right?
Yeah.
Is there any actual science behind that?
There is. There totally is.
Really?
Psychologists call it adversarial growth,
Okay.
or sometimes post-traumatic growth.
Interesting.
And studies have actually shown that people who go through really tough times often come out the other side with more resilience, a deeper appreciation for life, and even a clearer sense of purpose.
So it's like they've been through a fire and come out the other side forged and refined.
That's a great way to put it.
But I guess it's not just about the obstacle itself, but how we choose to understand it and how we respond to it.
Exactly. It's all about mindset.
Okay.
So instead of seeing a roadblock,
Yeah.
we can try to see it as a challenge, as a chance for growth and even transformation.
I love that. But how do we actually put that into practice?
Yeah.
How do we shift our perspective from seeing an obstacle as a negative to seeing it as a positive?
One really powerful technique is what we've been talking about, flipping the obstacle.
Okay.
It's about looking for the hidden opportunity within the challenge.
Okay. I'm following you. Give me an example.
Okay.
Let's say you have a really difficult boss,
Right.
which is a situation that most people would hate.
Yeah.
How would you flip that?
So it's all about perspective.
Okay.
So instead of seeing that boss as someone who's making your life miserable, what if you saw them as a teacher?
Right.
Maybe they're pushing you to develop new skills,
Mm-hmm.
or to become more assertive,
Right.
or to learn how to deal with tough personalities.
So you're saying that even what seems like a purely negative experience
Yeah.
can actually be valuable if we approach it with the right mindset.
I think so.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right.
But what about those times when we're so focused on the problem itself that we can't even see a possible opportunity?
Right.
You know, those times when we're just so stressed or overwhelmed that clear thinking kind of goes out the window.
It does. Well, in those moments, it's really important to remember that We have more control over our emotions than we often realize.
That brings to mind the astronauts in the early days of the space program.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they were literally rocketing into the unknown,
They were.
facing just incredible risk and pressure.
Talk about a high-stress job.
Yeah.
And one of the most important skills that they trained for
Uh-huh.
was emotional regulation.
Really?
They knew that panicking in a crisis could be fatal. So they went through all kinds of really intense simulations over and over again.
Wow.
They had to learn to stay calm and focused,
Right.
even when things went wrong.
That's intense.
It is, but it's a skill that we can all develop.
Okay.
We don't have to be astronauts to benefit from emotional regulation.
So how do we start training for that?
Right.
How do we become more like those cool-headed astronauts?
It starts with simply becoming aware of our emotional state.
Okay.
So when you notice yourself getting stressed or overwhelmed,
Uh-huh.
just take a moment to pause.
Yeah.
Observe your emotions. You can even name them. Oh, that's anxiety I'm feeling right now.
Right.
And then ask yourself, is this emotion helping me?
Right.
Is it moving me towards a solution?
And if the answer is no,
Yeah,
then it's time to take a step back, calm down, and refocus on what you can control.
exactly. So instead of just reacting to your emotions,
Yeah.
you're responding in a more conscious and deliberate way.
Okay.
You're choosing how you want to proceed.
It's like hitting the pause button on your autopilot.
I love that.
Right.
It's a shift from asking, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
To asking, what can I do about it?
You nailed it. It's about moving from feeling powerless to feeling empowered.
I think so.
It's like that Tommy John spirit that we were talking about earlier.
Right.
He didn't just accept defeat when he faced that career-ending injury.
No, you didn't.
He looked for a chance, however small,
Hmm.
and then he went all in on it.
He did. He concentrated on what he could control. His effort, his attitude, his recovery process. And that same spirit is what helped him through those really tough times with his son's accident as well.
What I'm hearing is that we often have way more options than we realize.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of seeing them and then having the courage to go after them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's often easier said than done.
Oh, for sure.
Oh.
What about those times when we just feel completely stuck?
Right.
Like we're in a rut or we're facing a problem that seems impossible to solve? Well, in those moments, it's so helpful to remember that our perspective can be even more powerful than the obstacle itself.
Okay.
Sometimes just a tiny shift in how we're viewing the situation can completely change our experience of it.
Just like Pericles in the solar eclipse.
Oh.
I mean, his men were totally freaked out,
Right.
but he was able to just calm them down
Yeah.
just by changing how they were seeing the darkness.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is.
He helped them see that the eclipse wasn't some sign of bad luck.
Right.
It was just a natural event.
Yeah.
And that one little change in their thinking
Uh-huh.
completely shifted their emotional state.
It's incredible how much power our minds have to shape our reality.
It's true.
I-
And that's why it's so important to build a positive and empowering mindset.
Oh,
When we focus on what we can control,
Uh-huh.
when we look for the opportunity within the obstacle, when
Mm.
we believe in our ability to overcome challenges,
Yeah.
we create a much more positive and fulfilling experience.
So instead of thinking, why me?
We can try asking, what can I learn from this?
Right.
How can I use this to my advantage?
Exactly. It takes conscious effort,
Mm-hmm.
but we can train ourselves to be more aware of our thoughts and beliefs.
Right.
We can choose to focus on the positive,
Mm-hmm.
to focus on solutions,
Mm-hmm.
and on what empowers us.
It's like we're building our own mental gym,
I like that.
working out those optimism muscles.
Yeah. But it's not just about our internal mindset, though, right?
Right. What about the people around us?
That's a great point.
Yeah,
Our external environment has a huge impact on us as well.
for sure.
We can choose to surround ourselves with negativity and limitations,
Uh-huh.
or we can build a more positive and encouraging support system.
So it's like choosing to spend time in a beautiful garden instead of a toxic wasteland,
I love that analogy.
right?
And that choice can make all the difference
Yeah.
in our ability to overcome obstacles and to achieve our goals.
Okay. Now let's shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and talk about another really powerful strategy for turning obstacles upside down. Mm-hmm.
And that's the power of the present moment.
That's a big one.
It seems like all those amazing people that we've talked about
Yeah,
had this ability to stay focused on the here and now,
they did.
even when the world around them was going crazy.
They did. You're picking up on a key theme here.
Okay.
They really understood that wasting energy dwelling on the past
Right.
or worrying about the future was pointless.
Uh-huh.
They just focused on what they could do right now
Yeah.
to move forward.
It's like that Zen saying, chop wood, carry water.
Exactly.
Just focus on the task at hand without getting lost in your thoughts.
Right. But how do we actually do that?
Yeah,
It just seems impossible sometimes.
it does.
With all the distractions and pressures of modern life.
It really does.
Yeah.
What's the antidote?
Well, one practice that can really help is mindfulness meditation.
Okay.
Even just taking a few minutes every day
Uh-huh.
to just focus on your breath,
Yeah.
to pay attention to the sensations in your body.
To observe your thoughts without judging them.
Okay.
It can make a huge difference.
It's like we're developing that observing eye that we were talking about earlier.
Exactly.
It helps us create a little space between us and our thoughts and our emotions.
Yeah.
So we can be more present with what is.
That's it. And there are other things you can do as well that help cultivate presence.
Like what?
Spending time in nature,
Okay.
exercising,
Mm-hmm.
listening to music,
Yeah.
even just practicing gratitude.
So it's about finding those activities that help you quiet your mind and reconnect with your body and feel more grounded in the present moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when we're more present, we're less likely to get caught up in the worry,
Right.
the fear, and all that overthinking.
Right. We can face those challenges with a clearer mind,
Yes.
with more creativity, and a greater sense of resilience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So instead of getting stuck in the past or anxious about the future, we can choose to focus on what we can do right now.
And that brings us to one last but super important element that we need to talk about.
Okay.
And that is the power of belief.
Yes. We've touched on this a bit throughout our conversation today,
We have.
but it's worth emphasizing. Our beliefs about what's possible have such a huge impact on our lives.
For sure.
And not just what we believe is possible for ourselves,
Right.
but what we believe is possible for the world around us, too.
I'm thinking about Steve Jobs again.
Oh, yeah.
He was just so sure that he could achieve the impossible and create things that would change the world.
Jobs was a master of what you might call reality distortion.
Yeah.
He had this uncanny ability to convince himself and everyone around him that anything was possible.
And it wasn't just wishful thinking. I mean, he put in the work.
He did.
He paid attention to every detail. And he wouldn't accept anything less than the best.
That's right.
But he was also incredible at inspiring other people to buy into his vision.
That's so important. He knew how to share his passion and enthusiasm and his unwavering belief in what they were building.
And that shared belief, that sense of collective purpose became such a driving force behind Apple's success.
Absolutely. It shows how powerful our beliefs can really be.
It does. When we believe in something strongly, when we're passionate and committed to making a difference, we inspire others to believe too.
That's right. And that collective belief, that shared energy, it can achieve some pretty incredible things.
It can. It can fuel breakthroughs,
It can.
ignite innovation, and even change the world.
And it all starts with believing in ourselves
Yeah.
and in what we're capable of.
So the next time that you are up against a challenge,
Yeah?
ask yourself, what do I believe is possible? Am I holding myself back with my own doubts and fears?
That's the question. If you find yourself saying yes, then it's time to start challenging those limiting beliefs and replace them with something more empowering.
It's about cultivating a mindset of possibility,
It is.
trusting in our own potential,
Yeah,
and being willing to step outside of our comfort zones and embrace the unknown.
absolutely. That's how we turn obstacles into opportunities.
That's how we make those breakthroughs
Yeah.
and build lives that are both fulfilling and impactful.
That's right.
This has been an amazing deep dive so far.
It really has.
We've learned so much about how much control we really do have,
We have.
even when things seem really difficult.
Absolutely.
We've seen how we can shift our perceptions, manage our emotions,
Yeah,
and focus on what we can control.
right.
But there's still more to come.
There is. In our final segment, we'll bring all these amazing insights together
Okay.
and look at how to apply them in a practical way.
Sounds great. I'm excited.
Stick with us.
Welcome back to our deep dive into turning obstacles upside down.
Yep.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It has been.
We've covered so much ground, from understanding how powerful our perceptions can be to the importance of taking action And really believing in ourselves.
It's all connected.
It is. And now it's time to kind of put it all together.
Yeah.
Let's explore how we can actually use all these amazing insights from history to help us navigate the challenges we face in our own lives.
Absolutely. Because let's be honest, obstacles are just a part of life.
They are.
They happen to all of us.
For sure. We can't avoid them, but we can learn to handle them better.
We can.
So let's do a quick recap. What are the essential tools that we need to add to our obstacle overcoming toolkit?
Okay, well, first and foremost,
Uh-huh.
we need to develop that observing eye that we talked about earlier.
Right. Remember John D. Rockefeller?
Yeah.
I mean, he was amazingly calm and rational, even during those financial meltdowns.
He was.
We can learn a lot from his approach to step back from our emotions and really try to see the situation clearly.
It's like taking off a pair of rose-colored glasses
Yeah.
so we can finally see things as they truly are.
Right. Without all the fear and the drama.
Or all the stories.
Yeah. And when we can actually see clearly, we can start to manage our emotions more effectively.
Absolutely.
Remember those astronauts?
Oh, yeah.
Who trained to stay cool under pressure?
Right.
I mean, we can learn from them too.
We can.
We can develop that same ability to stay calm and focused when things get tough, even when it feels like everything's going wrong.
Even when it feels like the world is ending.
Yeah, it's so empowering to realize that our emotions don't have to control us.
It is.
We can choose how we respond.
We do.
And we can practice staying calm even in the middle of all that chaos.
You know, it's like having a superpower.
It really is. And speaking of superpowers, remember Pericles and how he calmed his panicked crew during the eclipse?
Oh, yeah. That's a great story.
That is the power of perspective shifting in action.
Right there.
We can learn to reframe challenges, look for the opportunity hidden within the obstacle, and find a more empowering way to actually see the situation.
And sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah. It reminds me that we can ask ourselves a few really key questions when we're facing a challenge.
What are they?
Is there another way to look at this?
Right.
What's the potential benefit here? What can I actually learn from this experience?
Those are fantastic questions.
And once we've kind of shifted our perspective,
Right.
it's time to take action.
It is.
Remember Tommy John, the pitcher who faced that career-ending injury?
Oh, yeah. Tough situation.
He didn't just sit around hoping for a miracle.
No, he didn't.
He actively searched for a chance to get back in the game.
Yeah.
And when he found it, he just gave it everything he had.
He was all in.
He's such an inspiration.
Yes.
His story reminds me that it's all about focusing on what we can control.
Yeah.
Taking those small but consistent steps that move us toward our goals and never ever giving up, even when the odds seem totally stacked against us.
I love that. Never give up.
And all of this is fueled by belief.
It is.
Remember Steve Jobs?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he had this unshakable belief in his ability to achieve what seemed impossible.
It's true. Now, we may not all be quite as intense as Steve Jobs was.
Right.
But we can definitely cultivate that belief in our own potential, in our ability to overcome challenges, and the power of our dreams.
It's like planting a seed.
I like that.
And nurturing it with belief until it grows into something amazing.
Beautiful.
Our beliefs really do shape our reality, don't they?
They do. If we believe that something is possible, we're so much more likely to make it happen.
Absolutely. And finally, let's not forget the importance of staying present.
That's right.
When we get lost in the past,
Yeah.
or we start worrying about the future, we just lose so much energy.
We do.
And we miss out on what we can actually do right now
Right.
to create positive change.
It's like trying to drive a car while you're looking in the rearview mirror.
That's a good one. We need to bring our attention back to the present moment.
Yeah.
To the task at hand. To the simple act of breathing.
It's so grounding.
It really is.
Yeah.
And that simple act of just being present can be so empowering.
It is.
It helps us tap into our inner strength.
Yeah.
Find that clarity in the middle of the chaos and move forward with intention and purpose.
With clarity.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
it's clear that overcoming obstacles isn't about pretending they don't exist.
It's not.
It's about developing the mindset,
Yeah.
the skills, and the resilience to navigate those challenges.
Absolutely.
And then to actually use them as opportunities to grow and to learn.
Obstacles aren't roadblocks.
Right?
They're detours.
Yeah.
That can lead us to unexpected and amazing destinations.
I love that.
They're chances to discover our true potential.
So the next time that you find yourself face to face with a challenge,
Yeah.
remember all these stories that we've explored today. Remember that you have the power to choose how you see it
You do.
and how you respond to it.
That's right.
And never forget that you have the strength within you to overcome it.
You do.
Yeah.
What amazing adventure awaits you on the other side of your next obstacle?